All right, everybody, welcome back to The Spawn. I think today is going to be one of the most exciting episodes that we've had so far. I'm, of course, Day, and we've got a very unique cast for you guys today. We've, of course, got Verdict, our normal co-host. We've got the legendary BobbyPlays himself, who has a really important video that actually went out the other night titled, I believe it's Time for a Change, which you guys should certainly go watch after this if you haven't already. Definitely going to hit on a lot of points that we're going to talk about tonight in that video. So definitely a solid one. And then we're joined by Space, formerly from NYSL Mayhem. Not only is he one of the pros in the scene, but he's pretty consistently one of the top 5 ranked leaderboard players. So certainly going to have a big heavy weight on the conversation here today. If you look at the stream title, we're of course going to be talking about persistence and the ranked game mode overall. So thank you all for joining me here today.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
Just
dude,
a heads up for
topic, bro. I mean, come on now. How else could we do this without having like the goat of COD Mobile and then also Space as well. So it's gonna be an interesting one. I think you and I had a little bit of an encounter with this, particular topic. Persistence, man. It is just I don't know. I think it's getting to the best of us. And I think it needs to be addressed. I think it should have been addressed well before now, but we're finally getting around to it.
yeah, I've definitely caught some flack in Bobby's chat. And Bobby, I know you've seen me in there talking about it a couple times. I actually don't think persistence itself needs to be nerfed. I don't think persistence is a issue for COD Mobile. It certainly is for ranked, but I am for sure one to say that I think the problem dives much deeper than persistence itself. I would even go as far as to say, and obviously don't take this as a shot against you, Space. I would say largely it's the competitive scene's fault that ranked is so bad right now. Persistence wasn't a problem for a while. We had some new score streaks get added over some of the past updates that have certainly made it a much more relevant perk. The likes of Swarm, your orbital lasers, your advanced UAVs, etc. But largely, I think originating looking at the competitive scene, right? We just had, or we still have, kind of stage 1 going on, right? And the entry into competitive is your participation and your wins in ranked, right, guys? I think that for one gives a lot of influence in people trying to get a win there, right? What's my easiest way to get 5 wins? And of course, this problem started way before the announcement of this year's roadmap at all. But having your competitive scene start off with a ranked mode that is not designed to be competitive in the first place is a big issue to me.
Yeah. One thing I'd like to point out is that back whenever, so persistence has always kind of been a meta red perk. And I don't know if y'all remember, but there's, I think, 2 Mobile Mayhem seasons that were iPad and persistence at the same time. And I mean, every single team ran 10-man persistence. And like we started to see it happen in the rank scene as well. But as soon as it got banned from Mobile Mayhem, everyone just kind of shied away from it because they kind of see the pro players going back to everyone was using lightweight because it was just the best red perk at the time. And we only saw this like huge like wave of people using persistence after that big lightweight nerf. That's kind of like what happened, just because there's no other red perk that's really valuable, especially to rank players. And they just kind of resorted there, even though pro players aren't using it now. It's pretty obvious like how much like it just doesn't give enough. Like any of the other red perks don't give enough to the point where it's like like I need to use this over persistence. So persistence is just kind of the default now.
So, Day, you said you don't think persistence is the issue.
Correct.
What do you think the issue is? Obviously, like you said, not having a competitive ranked mode. What would the solution to that be? Would it be to remove persistence from ranked altogether?
So sort of. I think largely COD Mobile has a fan base that is largely mobile gamers that maybe haven't really been in the console or PC scene in general. But if you guys, obviously, the four of us here know what we have going on, right? So in console/PC COD, we actually have a ranked mode called League Play. It's not just ranked, it's League Play. And you actually have a rule set that it very, very closely resembles, if not even to a T sometimes, what the rule set is going to be for competitive. So, for example, for League Play in Vanguard, for example, you've got no access to shotguns, you've got no access to LMGs, you have restricted perks, you have restricted attachments for your guns. And I think that's something that COD Mobile in general is really missing right now. So, we can complain about persistence all we want, and I absolutely agree that persistence is a current problem, but I think the ranked scene asking for a persistence nerf is actually hurting the ranked scene more than persistence itself is. I think the real focus should be asking for a ranked mode that actually is formulated based around a competitive spirit of the game, right? I think asking for persistence to be nerfed is a band-aid on a much larger wound. So I would, there's plenty of people who have thrown out, things out there on how you can fix persistence, right? Make it so that you get reduced score for kills or for captures or anything of that nature. And, that's, again, a temporary fix. Another one that's been thrown out there is move it to another perk slot that has more valuable things that you have to balance. And again, I just feel like this is a band-aid for a bigger problem because you've also got the likes of dogs as an issue. A lot of score streaks. I think one of the biggest ones people complain about right now is the chopper gunner is just, it's annoying, it's broken, it is, incredibly difficult to shoot down. I mean, there's just a whole slew of issues with ranked that are not fixed by just fixing persistence. And again, I think asking the community as a whole for persistence to be nerfed, persistence does exactly what it's supposed to do, right? I mean, it functions exactly the way it was designed. So that's why I think the problem is just a little bit deeper than a lot of your normal ranked players give credit to.
I think when you're looking at solutions, the main reason, like I agree, in an ideal world we get league play and all this is not an issue, but you got to look at what is actually feasible as far as things that we've seen Call of Duty Mobile do in the past, and what is a change that they could easily implement that would immediately increase quality of life for ranked play. So the reason that asking for a persistence nerf is the best possible solution right now is there's been no indication in the past that Call of Duty Mobile has any desire to make ranked play actually competitive. For all intents and purposes, every change that has ever happened to Call of Duty Mobile ranked play has been in order to make it easier for low skill players to rank up. So the reason that I would say asking for a persistence nerf is the best possible option right now is because it doesn't seem like there's any sign that at any point in the future Call of Duty Mobile is going to make ranked truly a competitive environment. I would love to see that happen. I've given at the beginning of the year, I wrote up an entire document about everything that needs to be changed in COD Mobile Ranked to make it competitive, and we haven't really seen anything out of it. So they have that type of feedback. They know what players are looking for. But what we do know is that Call of Duty Mobile is willing to nerf specific perks, specific operators, specific guns. So because of that, the solution that makes the most sense, in my opinion, is to ask for persistence nerf. We got a K9 nerf in the past season. They're not nearly as annoying. We got a Katana nerf. And it does seem like, as far as balance things go, they're starting to pay a little bit more attention. And for that reason, specifically, as far as immediate fixes go, I think persistence is the best, or the persistence nerf is the best option.
I mean, how do you go about nerfing something that, I mean, has never really been touched since it came out?
I've seen like probably at least 27 different good explanations of how you nerf persistence. You increase the cost of score streaks. You remove lethal score streaks so they can only use UAVs, counter UAVs. I think I think a good baseline and something that I've heard talked about with people who have access to the dev team that might be possible in the future is they might actually remove persistence from rank, which I think is a perfectly fine solution. I think that also opens a doorway where they can start adding different restrictions that would make it more similar to league play. So I think that's best case scenario, but there's 20 to 30 different solutions to nerf persistence that I've heard of that would be good options, but as it is, I think that's kind of up for the developers to decide because there's tons and tons of different ways that you can nerf it to make it not nearly as effective as it is right now.
I do believe that there is a place for persistence in Call of Duty with like that just kind of persistent aspect, but I do believe that a game would have to be kind of built around to compensate that. And COD Mobile is just not that game like at all. And so honestly, something that I've always wanted in COD, and I've said it multiple times, is I don't know if anyone has remembered some Fortnite seasons when there has been just some crazy broken things, guns and weapons and anything that's glitched, it just gets vaulted, it gets sealed away for a little bit. It's still in the game, it's still in casual play, you can use it in customs, but just in ranked play, it's just not available for a certain amount of time until a fix that they think is reasonable is out. And I've always wondered why Call of Duty hasn't been able to do something like that whenever there is something that is just so overly dominant that everybody on every single team is just going to be consistently using, where you see just 10 man of one thing on every single team.
Yeah,
I mean,
oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think largely on the COD mobile side of things, just because something gets used a lot doesn't necessarily give them the information that they're maybe looking for as far as what needs to be nerfed and what doesn't. And that's going to be largely around like a win percentage thing. So you have people that are running persistence and that's, obviously a current issue that everybody is facing. But if they're not seeing a unusually large win rate on the side of persistence, because you can jump into like a Bobby stream or an Aerith stream or a Jez stream, and they're going up against a team that has 5 persistence users on it, and they still come through with the win because the skill difference is large enough to warrant that.
But also, you got to understand that these players have already gotten to this rank that they shouldn't even be relatively close to because of persistence. So now, even with this broken, like complete incapable thing that they're doing that they have access to, they're still able to compete at this high of a level. And of course, they're going to lose to pro players and ranked, but it's just going to be a complete oddity at that point that you're even going to match against pro players. These guys shouldn't have even been here in the first place, and they're getting to this point through persistence. And so, yeah, the win rate's going to be down because we have players that shouldn't even like relatively be close to what they are using persistence and are at the top rank right now. And that just shouldn't have happened in the first place.
Yeah.
So now it's leveling out, but
it's a combination of like multiple different factors, because the other issue that adds into that is the way that, especially with random queue skill-based matchmaking in COD Mobile, the skill-based matchmaking isn't matching good players against good players. It's putting the equal number of bad players on each team. So it as far as from what I can see on a consistent basis, seems like more than likely it lists the average rank KDs of every player, splits them up onto 2 different sides, with like obviously number 1 and 2 being on different teams, 3 and 4, 4 and 5, all the way down to where you have 2 equally bad players on opposite teams. That's the way COD Mobile does skill-based matchmaking rather than giving 2 equal lobbies. So because of that, it adds on top of the issue of persistence in that, like Space mentioned, you have these players that are able to get to higher ranks, and they don't actually have to learn any type of gun skill, map awareness, anything like that in order to do so. So they've gotten all the way up into these higher ranks, and more than likely their rank KD is probably like a 0.3, a 0.5, something like that. But the perks and different crutches that they use allow them to get into the higher ranks, and then they're able to stay there because of the way the skill-based matchmaking works. So even though they're consistently going 3 and 27 every game, they have the top fragger on their team that's able to carry them to victory every once in a while. So like Space said, there's a lot of different issues, and I think that's another thing that if we had like a true rank system, a true league play system, skill-based matchmaking is not even necessary, because the entire purpose of a rank system is to match people against each other based on their skill. If you have to have skill-based matchmaking within your rank system, then it's not actually a rank system.
And you also have to consider that these horrible players that are at the top rank are going to be dragging the win percentage of persistence. It's going to seem leveling out because of how far it already got these players that shouldn't be where they are in the first place. And the thing that frustrates me the most with persistence, like just being a top 0.1% player, is that if I were to run persistence, it would honestly be a nerf to me because without persistence, I'm getting my full streaks. I'm getting big streaks. I run big streaks. I run advanced UAV. I run all these, and I get them 1 to 2 times a game already. And so if I use persistence, it would take away from what I'm already doing, but it also gives these other players the same like level as me. So it's hard for me to excel above while it's just giving these players just a straight shot and puts us on an even level without them being skilled at all.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that I've come to realize is that like there's no reason for me to use like I'll get the same amount of streaks. It actually like slows down my pacing, changes the way that I have to play the game if I do use persistence. And that's the other thing is that
It benefits
it's not
the
just
worst player.
it's not even that it's like crazy OP if you're a good player. It's that it raises the skill gap so much if you're not.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you guys, and I think a quick fix to make ranked a more enjoyable experience is certainly there's got to be an off button for just you can't use this in the ranked game mode, right? Like that seems like an easy thing that is, again, I think it's temporary, and my focus on it is certainly more a long uh a long-term fix. And Verdict, I definitely want to get your opinion on this, because again, we play more of the console side of things. When Vanguard came out, we were grinding Vanguard really hard. We obviously play Warzone and such. I certainly think a league play option is obviously not something that they can just do overnight and fix the game. That's an obvious. But yeah, long term, especially if you're going to directly tie the ranked game mode into what teams are going to be able to qualify for champs, I think, to avoid situations like, the Bad Batch situation, like the Destiny official gaming situations, I think starting with a mode that, forces people to actually be ready for that level of competition is really just where everything has to begin, right? Bad Batch, again, I'll give them all credit all day long, but the reality was, there was an iPad team that qualified because, again, the only requirement to make it into stage 2 was have a good performance from stage 1, right? Get your ranked games down, and that's where we end up in this situation where obviously I don't think through the qualifications of the game they can't be like, well, you guys qualified on an iPad so you can't play. That's obviously not something easy, but getting them ready for a ranked rule set certainly does not seem like it should be that hard, if that makes sense.
No, I definitely agree. I think, obviously it's hardpoint domination that are giving us all the problems with, respawns being the games drag out a little bit, those score streaks get accumulated. I think another way that, I think this should have been implemented, especially if they're going to introduce it as a next stage, game mode. I think control replacing domination also plays a huge factor in score streaks for persistence users too. If you look at it, a lot of those players who are going 3-27, as Bobby mentioned, they're getting a lot of those points from playing the objective. I mean, if you're able to PTFO, obviously, in a game mode like Control, it's not going to be as massive. I mean, obviously, that's not going to fix the issue, on the back end where you're playing hardpoint. You're still going to have those players who are racking up points from not as many, but domination in the whole is unplayable. I can't even spawn into a game of Dom and not have 2 or 3 players using persistence. And we're not even Grandmaster rank day. I mean, we're sitting in Master, and these are the players that are going to be eventually legendary because they're coming through. They're putting up those, 0.3 KDs. They've got those swarms. They've got, the chopper gunners that are coming in and playing a massive effect. But It's just become unbearable in that sense. I think if you take domination out of the mix too, and I don't know if Bobby or Space can chime in on that. I haven't played any. I've seen one weird game of Control. I don't know how it plays, but is that like
It's very
another
odd.
viable option?
Control is definitely a better game mode overall and a more competitive and skilled game mode overall. But just the way it is in COD Mobile right now is just not there. It's literally glorified frontline. You have spawn protection every single time. You're gonna spawn in the same exact spot. There's no outplaying. You know where they're gonna come from. You know where they're gonna spawn, and you have a capped amount of lives. So team as a whole has 20 lives. And if you've seen console COD CDL, um, there's no cap. One player could exalt all 20 lives. But in this game, each player has a cap of 4 lives apiece. And in Control, we've only seen as a 4v4 game mode in competitive. And so it plays very, very oddly on COD Mobile. And it's almost played like a TDM at this point. Almost all the Control scrims I've played have just resulted in just playing for kills, playing like a S&D, but you respawn a couple times. And that's literally it. It's just not very enjoyable as it is now. There's no outplay potential. If you make a flank, you kill someone. Let's say we're playing raid, and let's say you're spawning driveway side. You play through laundry. You get into laundry. You try to make a flank towards. I think it's flipped. I think it's A is pool or bar. You try to make a flank towards A. The person you kill in jungle is gonna spawn right back next to jungle. You're gonna die. There's no outplay potential there. You have to come from one side of the map every single time, and it just turns into a TDM with set spawns.
Yeah, I think overall the biggest issue with ranked in esports is that ranked doesn't create a bridge to actual competitive play, and I think
Yeah,
that's
that's
what
what I
the
was gonna.
purpose that I think that should be the purpose of Call of Duty Mobile Ranked, and that's why you see like the actual player base of tier 1 players, it doesn't change. It's been the
Exactly.
same tier 1 players for the last 2 years because everybody got their gun skill in Critical Ops or PUBG and they switched to COD Mobile, and those guys have been at the top because they all know each other and they practice against each other all the time. But you don't ever see anybody from ranked moving into
And
competitive play. Like maybe one exception, like you get a Moralto here or there that just is crazy dedicated and actually makes their way in. There's like a tiny chance, but there's such a massive gap between ranked and competitive play, and I think the control situation is a great example of how it's not being handled well. We've got control being played as supposedly what a stage 3 game mode. We're currently halfway through stage 1, and we still don't even have a good version of control in the game, let alone it being in ranked for people to actually be able to test it out. So that on top of it is another massive issue in people's inability. Like you're going to have the people that have scrimmed on control absolutely decimating everybody else because everybody's going to get to stage 3 and be like, oh, new game mode, let's try it out, as we have one opportunity to actually make it to top 8.
And I've said that before a couple times, not too publicly, but I've said it on stream, and I've mentioned it to Zim and a few other higher ups. But like as a ranked player,
Zim
as a
is a
leaderboard
higher up.
player,
Sorry.
huh? Well, no,
Zim
some
is a
some
higher.
other higher ups,
Oh,
not
okay,
not
gotcha.
including, yeah.
Oh, you okay?
And
Go ahead.
and so like as a ranked player, and like I can go into leaderboard and like I'll recognize about 100 of the 200 players. Like I see some players up there that are just like completely unskilled at the game. Like no offense, but they just don't deserve like where they're at. And ranked is kind of turned into a mode where it's just like whoever grinds the most, whoever plays the most wins, because there's no actual like skill involved to an extent. Of course, there's like a minimum cap, like you have to be able to shoot back, but then after that, it's just who plays the most per day, and it does not lead anywhere in competitive. The top leaderboard players, the best S&D players, the highest win rate, the highest KD, doesn't lead anywhere into competitive at all.
I would
That's
agree
actually complete
there.
opposite in league play too. I mean, you look at league play; it's like all the pro players from the CDL are grinding it because they want to be, seen again as top tier percentage players, and that reward is, obviously praised on Twitter. You see, people still hack into that game too, bro. Just imagine
yes.
hack it and being in challengers, like, bro, come on, you're gonna get caught. you're gonna get caught. But I mean, that's a separate issue, and that I think that one's far worse than what we have going on in persistence. But at the same time, there's no real reward for being at the top in COD Mobile. Ranked top. I was leaderboard player for maybe 2 or 3 seasons, and let me tell you, it was a nonstop grind. Space 100% hit it on the head. It's not anything to do with skill. It has everything to do with your ability to play as many games as possible at any given cost and winning at any given cost. It didn't necessarily relate to skill at all.
I would largely agree, and I think that's a big point to make is, this kind of ties in with the whole persistence thing, is that the environment that ranked is currently, even if you take persistence out, just does not really resemble the competitive scene. Like that's a whole nother thing when you're mentioning, the Vanguard players are the pros there are continuing to play league play, for example, because it is that current rule set. So if the team's not like available, ready to play, they can jump into a game and still be working on exactly what they're going to be facing in the pro scene against players that are also limited to those same kind of strategies, right? The pros can jump into the scene right now and they can work on their own gun skill or whatever it may be, but as far as like how they actually play, the rotations they make, bro, an enemy swarm comes in and you're stuck to, okay, well, I'm going to sit in this building right now. You know what I mean? Because if you're practicing exactly how you're going to play, for example, Space, you have games obviously coming up on Thursday, right? For the launch of Mobile Mayhem spring season. You're not wanting to go through and change every single one of your classes into cold-blooded just so that you can be outside. So
yeah, exactly.
it doesn't promote a strong competitive environment. And again, when you so directly tie your ranked scene into getting into that stage 1 of champs, I think you're really inviting a lot of people that just aren't actually ready for the competitive scene. And this is a very kind of hit or miss subject, right? Obviously, Verdict, you and I just casted Reaper Crew in 6 Feet Under in the qualifiers, and that is a prime example. And again, I will give them credit for showing up and taking that ass whooping day in and day out, right? But the reality is they were a group of ranked warriors that I don't want to throw them under the bus and say they're persistence users because I don't know, but they're a team.
That the team that lost 250-3? Is that the one?
0-0.
Well, there was a 250-0-6-0 and a 250-3-6-0 for each one of those teams respectively. But the ultimate reality is they were at a disadvantage coming in, right? Because there were just a squad of 5 ranked warriors that seen there was, a competitive scene sign up, but the game that they're used to playing is not the same as the competitive scene. And obviously, the Mobile Mayhem rule set is very likely going to be different than the Champs rule set, especially if we look at what went on last year. And I largely think the competitive scene should not just so easily accept the very butchered rule set that Champs put up to offer, right? I think largely the people in charge of setting up the rules for competitive have cut mobile short largely because it is mobile gaming and they want to treat it like mobile gaming. And I don't know if I'm gonna get in trouble for saying this, but I think the devices that the competitive scene had to play on last year certainly didn't promote maybe those extra hours of gameplay that you would, for example, see. Bobby, you obviously do watch parties of the CDL, right? And that goes on like all day for one region, right? So that's maybe a factor, but I don't think 250 or I don't think 150 hardpoint and 150 dom is truly healthy for the competitive scene. I think it mobile gamers want to be compared to like the full on PC scene, right? But then you cut it down to, it's almost like they make the competitive scene, they want it to look good for, if you have 10 minutes, you can jump into this hardpoint game. That's all fine and dandy for like your normal marketing to the normal consumer, but for a competitive scene, I just don't think that's a healthy aspect in the first place. So that goes back into, if you want to keep ranked as ranked, sure, but I think largely a league play is something that needs to be added within probably the year, in all honesty. I mean, that's something that I think should hit the scene before a 2023 season.
Yeah, definitely. And it is like from a competitive side, it's frustrating because like I was a top performing player at champs. Like I was pretty up there. And like just being completely honest, I got 10 times more recognition and following and viewership from being on #1 rank leaderboard for I think it was maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I gained 4,000 followers on Trovo. It was just a big hit. And I partly believe that this what's causing like this bad viewership and not like the hype that you would expect from the competitive side of COD Mobile. And like these rank players that are grinding leaderboard are getting a lot more recognition than they should be in there. Since there is no casual branch into competitive at all, the viewership never migrates over there. I think the biggest link in is probably Vague, and then other than him, it's just not really there. And to make a branch out like that, it's pretty hard. And most of his viewership and like Vague is one of the best. Like he is doing the best in competitive. He is performing the best in competitive, and his dominant viewership is coming from casual rank and posting videos like that. His scrim videos do well, but that's not where he's getting notoriety from. He's bringing notoriety to competitive instead of how it should be, which is getting notoriety from doing well in competitive as you it would in every other COD. And that's kind of like it's kind of like frustrating in my opinion.
It's ass backwards, is what it is.
Exactly.
There we go.
Yeah, that's like going to watch Scump play on his personal stream
Oh,
because he's
man.
ranked high in league play. You know,
No,
that just
Yeah.
bro.
that just doesn't make sense. You know.
No, it doesn't, man. It's, I mean, and I guess that's where COD Mobile, wants to head and stay in that direction, right? I mean, there's no real effort to, change that mindset of the casual player, and I don't know. I'm kind of speechless. I think Space just hit it right, perfectly when he said it right there, and it just made everything come to my eyes, and I'm just kind of shook from that. Here we are
Yeah.
trying to take it seriously. We have a podcast going on, for Christ's sakes. We've been going for almost an hour, and meanwhile, little Johnny over here, who's using persistence, is getting the same amount of views because that's
Yeah.
what's popular. Damn, I quit. I'm out, guys. Later.
Yeah,
I think part of what's tough is that Activision they're not even the ones in full control of a lot of things that happen in COD Mobile. Like a lot of stuff as far as the game runs is decided by Timmy, which is obviously Tencent Studio. And from what I understand, a lot of the way that Timmy views everything that happens in COD Mobile is based on the way that it's going to retain player base, irregardless of like what portion of that player base is. So from everything that I've heard, their #1 concern is keeping casuals interested. And I think that's part of the reason that ranked has gotten to the point that it has, and that it's really just pubs with numbers next to your name. That's pretty much all that it is.
and that's why I was
Um,
saying I don't mind if they keep ranked as is in the game, just as like a more free game mode that does have points tied to it, because it sets off endorphins in your brain, right, that make you want to grind and be higher in the leaderboards and be ranked better, so you have something to brag about. If they want to have a ranked mode in the game that just says, okay, you can use whatever you want, and have a quick play mode in the game that you can use whatever you want, I think that's fine, as long as they offer for a scene that wants more than just a number next to their name, a avenue of free practice, or okay, you're high ranked in the ranked leaderboards, maybe you want to take it a step further. I think that's ultimately where they should be aiming. That gives you an option of still having modes where persistence is usable, because if you nerf persistence in the ground, okay, now it's just not usable, right? If you say, okay, if you have persistence on, you need double the score to get all these score streaks, then people just aren't going to use it in general, right? I mean, that's just the game mode, the way it's set up in the game right now is just not long enough to match that kind of change. Go ahead, Space.
Another thing that's kind of like a very, very rough position that Timmy has put themselves in is like whenever I'm streaming and I'm playing rank and like I'm wearing headphones, like you literally like players get mad. Like a lot of casual players, even in legendary, like say something, oh, you're using headphones.
You're
Oh,
sounding, yeah.
exactly. And so it's
Well,
it's
damn.
kind of crazy because like you ask and you like wonder and they're like, I'm playing for fun. I don't whatever. And it's like good on you, like that's fine. But also this is ranked. If I want to take it serious and that's why I have fun and I want to play competitively, that's what I'm gonna do. And it's ranked. But it put these casual players at a point where they can like ranked is their casual play because pubs just aren't that. And so Timmy's in this rough position to where if they were to implement like this whole like rank and league play system like they'd say, it's gonna just kind of split the scene kind of
Yeah.
oddly. And it's
And
gonna
we already
cause a
know
lot
where
of
the numbers. We already know where the numbers are at. It's going to stay and remain in rank because that's what people want.
yeah.
That's what the player base wants. The casual player wants to see this god awful, like just terrible rank play that everyone rages at, all because of just a few little things. And
I mean,
I don't.
that's
So
like
in my opinion, if they were to just do everything perfect for a proper competitive play and a proper competitive rule set and that perfect branch from playing ranked and being the top ranked leading into competitive, I feel like it would almost destroy COD Mobile to a point. And I feel like
Yeah.
the only way they could fix that is through a new Call of Duty game and doing it right from the start. Because
would
if they do it now,
ostracize the
it's going
good
to be
people.
stripping what the casual players like now. It's going to be stripping that from them, and it's going to be splitting it up like completely.
Yeah, I mean, anytime in the past that I've like, especially on Twitter, brought up the concept of rank really requiring any type of skill, rank being indicative of like actually your rank and being the best, the response that I get every single time is, not everybody has the time to no life rank every single day for 5 hours. And so it's not fair because we won't be able to get the ranked rewards. And that's part of it, is that like the entire player base has become accustomed to every single player should be able to earn every single ranked reward relatively easily. And because of that, number one, nothing is special in the game. You look at lucky draws, crates, everything comes back, so nothing's rare anymore. But also none of the rewards are special because, like, what do you have? A top 5,000 calling card? Nobody even looks at calling cards. Like, the top 5,000 calling card literally did nothing. If it was top 5,000 rank, it'd be something different. It would also need a complete change because only playing against the top 5,000 players in the current rules of ranked would be absolutely miserable. But that's the thing. Like, the entire player base has very, very little exposure to competitive outside of Garena. Garena does a fantastic job of bringing their ranked and their casuals into what's happening in competitive, incorporating things into the game, running tournaments year round, giving incentives, all that. That just doesn't really exist for global right now, and I think it is that there's a lot of different reasons for it. Activision has more red tape than Garena does, more than likely, and it's tougher to get things put through. But all of that has just contributed to a player base that is, for all intents and purposes, their only desire is for them to be able to unlock things as easily as possible.
Yeah.
I think in general, like for COD Mobile Global specifically, the advertisement or influence or just general tying in with the public of when these competitive things are happening has been absolutely wild to me. So when I played Vainglory in the past and casted for Vainglory, which was a MOBA, if there was something going on, bro, when you opened the app and, didn't matter if you were on the home screen or if you hit play, like there was something on there that said, hey, this big event is going on now, click here, it'll take you to it, or, it would have the link that you could find it at, or whatever the case may be. Like, I thought it was kind of blatantly honest, disgusting that, when Champs Stage 5 Western Finals was going on, I found more information on like what times everything was going to be happening on kind of like your second Twitter account, Bobby, the COD Mobile Esports Twitter account that it's you and Ronan that run that, right?
Robot.
Yep.
Like I went on the official COD Mobile Twitter and scrolled for like 10 minutes and could not find a single post about what time the event was. Like I had to go to a completely non-official channel to find. How is that not pinned on your Twitter, first of all? Second, why when you open the game was there not like a, come watch stage 5 happen right now? That was absolutely insane to me. And again, I think that's just really poor integration. Again, whether it's Timmy or Activision or anything, right? Like that just seems like a big miss for not only the competitive players and their exposure, but also the ranked players and being able to see what it's like truly getting into kind of that level of play. Because honestly, I pulled up Ferg's channel for a bit, right? He was obviously watch partying stage 5. How does he have 3 times as many viewers as the official COD mobile channel? Like, where on earth did the advertisement go wrong there?
There actually was an in-game advertisement for stage 5, but it was literally
Where?
it was exactly the same. It was exactly the same as one of these. Like I think there's an event right now for like a Mendez skin. It was exactly the same as that. One of these random monthly events with some random garbage reskinned blueprint that's just anyone like
some
play for
garbage that
15
I
minutes.
clicked X on the second the game started.
Whoa.
So
yeah,
I mean, just saying it how it is. It's the same skin. It might even be a skin that I already bought in a crate that they just are giving back. And like, I can't say it any other way when it comes to that.
Yeah,
Well,
I
hostility
mean,
behind that.
like think about. Obviously, everybody was disappointed whenever we found out there wasn't going to be a LAN, and I understand why they did it. Like COVID was spiking back up. I think they made the right decision. But think about how much money they must have saved not having to have a LAN event. You don't have to fly players out. You don't have to run out an event. You don't have to outfit the event. All you have to pay for is casters and admins, and that's pretty much it. Like you save so much money, and I didn't see a single. I think 1 month out, there had been a total of 1 post about stage 5. They didn't start posting anything semi-regularly about stage 5 until I believe a week out from the first weekend. Absolutely crazy that there was no attempt to get content creators in on it, that there was just nothing there. And I talked about that like on the esports account, like that there's the biggest competition that has ever happened in Call of Duty mobile history, and it was getting I believe I'm thinking about 2020 stage 4. I believe LATAM channels combined for 37K. I think if you combined all the channels for stage 5, I think they peaked probably between like 8 and 10K, which is mind-boggling. Like you got 50,000 on the line for 2 streams of LATAM where nobody is local. You just called up some casters and they casted it, and it's getting what, 5 times less than your $2 million tournament. Just like completely mind-boggling.
And another thing I want to point out is like, just like I said, and like I said, how it is content is your direct link to viewership and competitive. Like content is just your direct link. And I'm not gonna knock any device, but whenever it's mobile gaming, and so like your device and the spec of your device is also your controller and your comfort. And whenever we're having like forced devices on people, like just in general, like content is just going to be miserable for some people, and it's just the truth, especially when it's something so far out of their comfort, and it's something that some people completely ditch all of their skill, all of their potential and everything because they don't want to switch devices just out of comfort. And it kind of makes content hard for a competitive player, and it just kind of breaks that link. And you don't see a lot of like I mean I could maybe name like maybe 10 pro players that are consistently making content and doing fairly well. And that's just bizarre to me because it should be like through competitive, you're building this viewership, and then through content, you're building yourself. And you just kind of can't do that in mobile gaming as it is now.
I mean, I think that's largely a mental thing as well. Obviously not only, but for example, like your understanding space is, I would say, a little bit higher than most people. So you have a brand, right? And you continue to push forward and grow that brand through your content, through your competitive games, etc. And you stick to that. How many players do we see come into the scene and change their name every 2 weeks? Like, you're not going to be able to build any sort of following with that kind of mindset, right? Like you, for example, Space, if you go on to another game Space down the road, let's say you went to you know, a Valorant or an Apex or anything like that, right? Like you know that you have this following that's built around who you are as not only a player but a personality. And I think that's a big thing that a lot of people miss out on, that maybe is a little bit misunderstood for some. Obviously, again, you know, that's not like the end all, you know, who you are is going to, you know, carry through for everybody. That's a very specific thing. Um, but it's still, to me, just really weird that we have a competitive scene that, you know, is so prominent to changing player identity so frequently, right? Like, um, when you look at it as an organization standpoint, and this is a conversation I've had with the likes of Vague on maybe the other end of the spectrum, is you know, maybe you know, keep in mind to be appropriate on certain platforms, because when these bigger orgs come in and are looking, you know, they're gonna, you know, want to look back and be able to find you, right? They're gonna want to look back and, you know, when they're trying to pull together a team, say, okay, well, this player brought together, you know, this KD in 2019, this KD in 2020, this KD in 2021. They want to be able to track your improvements and things like that, and that is just something that largely is not happening in the scene right now. I think a lot of like your main players are pretty consistent. You know, minus maybe Blur has gone through a couple name changes. I would say maybe a little less prevalent player that's changed their name a couple times and quit and retired is, you know, the likes of an Asta. Jim obviously every season quits. You know, big shout out to Jim. We love Jim, but it's
Huge Jim fan.
yeah, huge
Go
Jim fan,
Jimbo.
huge Jim fan. But I mean, there's so many factors in the ranked and competitive scene that I think are so largely mistreated, both on the company aspect, the CODM side of things, as well as you know, the player front. So I think there's a large amount of room where the players can do better. I think there's a larger amount of room where hopefully COD Mobile will do better this time around. And unfortunately, it's largely a waiting game because they have never been known for their transparency with the community.
Yep. And something I'd like to say, kind of regarding Vague, is that he's relatively new to the scene, but
He's young.
following the trend of just how the other championships have been regarding content, if this year of champs goes in the likes of the last, I feel like if it's just going to be the same trend where you see these content creators take big hits and big steps back, not only because of mental, but just because of like inability to do certain things, and it really takes a hit on these competitive players, and it's a big drawback. And I haven't seen anyone who's prevailed through that except for maybe Heaven and Garena.
To be fair, Garena and Global are like not even the same thing on a competitive
exactly.
aspect. Like it's just you're basically watching a different game that just has the same code, right? Which is which is unreal. They have different rule set, they have different update intervals, they have different balance patches for updates quite often. I mean, it's literally not even the same thing, which, you know, is kind of one thing that worries me going in towards a stage a stage 5 where it is a LAN that is worldwide. You know, and this was a big topic before they did officially split things up last season, right? Was, well, you know, China was used to playing on like a completely different game mode setup, right? Like they played, I think, for best of 5 3 S&Ds, which just doesn't happen for us in whether it's Europe, whether it's LATAM, whether it's NA. That just has not been a thing. So I'm largely kind of curious how they're going to implement that kind of structure this year, and what that is going to mean for the competitive scene. I have obviously high hopes that COD Mobile is gonna, you know, really tighten things up and make the scene much better from a viewership standpoint. Again, Verdict, you're right here with me on this. I know we had this discussion. I think stage 5 for me was so lackluster last year that we actually put off starting the spawn. Like we wanted to start it earlier. You know, we were like, you know, stage 5 is gonna happen. We're so excited, and I just didn't have anything good to say. And I was like, it's just it's not feasible for us to come through and start this right now because it's all going to be negative.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people were upset. I'll use that word.
They did the best they could with, again,
They
I
did.
think.
And look, I can't even be mad at it. We were in a time where we weren't promised anything. Travel is very difficult. So the fact that they were able to muster up something like that and be able to, put it on, I was extremely impressed with. And I'll say that in that regard. Everything else I was upset with, as a person who is very into the scene and likes to see the teams that I cast on a regular basis move forward in a major event, and they're getting the opportunity to display their skills at the highest, extent that is available at the time. I was genuinely upset. I was let down, I'm not biased in any scene at all, but I would have loved to have seen more variety as well too. I think it would have been very difficult for us to host a session where we talked about the games that we got to see, because the games that we got to see on stream were literally 3 to 4 different teams intervaled in, and that's a whole nother thing in its own, and it's not anybody's fault in particular, but at the same time, I didn't have any motivation. Even like, I woke up, let me tell you, I woke up day of stage 5, the first day. I woke up at like 6 a.m. and I'm not a morning person, bro, but I was up and ready to go. It felt like Christmas morning as a child. And that's a terrible thing to say because I'm a 31-year-old man. And we're talking about a mobile game, but that's how invested I was, bro. That's how invested I was. And the next day, I think I woke up 5 minutes before the event started. I'm like, well, damn, let me just go ahead and start this Warts party up. And I guess I'll get breakfast. And, there was no motivation that second day. And that's a bad thing to say.
And as a player who participated through the whole thing, it was honestly kind of a letdown in regards to it. Like, this was a whole year event. It led up. It just kept going. And to think that it was just all over in one day was just like if you come in, like everyone has a bad day, and if you come in and have one hiccup, and I'm not gonna say that we did, but like any team, like if they just have that one hiccup, like it's just over. This 1 year let up event is just over, and it could be on a fluke. So it's just kind of like, dang, like what is that? And another thing that really frustrated me is like how much we played in a single day. So you got to think, like, I'm every match, like I'm going through like that whole adrenaline, I'm going through that whole hype, keeping the energy just consistently. And we also warmed up beforehand, and I'm telling you, like, I played consecutively with full energy for 10 hours, like, and that's just horrible. Like, it was just one of the worst feelings in the world. By the last game, like I was just losing focus. I was losing. I couldn't call out the proper things, and like just as a player, it was kind of a letdown as well. And something that they kind of like did the same thing this year whenever they kind of let out the I guess you could say the roadmap for competitive or for the championship. Like there was a huge loss in just like willpower and drive for a lot of competitive players. A lot of people were stepping back. A lot of people weren't really excited, and everyone was like, okay, once this like announcement, this is gonna be big this year. Once there's an announcement, I'm gonna have that drive back. And like when you just see dates like December and just kind of like nothing like laid out at all, it's like nothing changed. Like it really only takes about a month and a half of real like focus up and getting everything together for it to work out. So just starting now is just almost no point, and there's just no like longevity right now in competitive.
Yeah, I think whenever, because obviously, like Blake runs esports for COD Mobile, and so I'm pretty sure his Twitter is private now, but he like was tweeting leading up to it. He was leaking dates for us and talking about how excited he was. So I think part of the issue was him hyping up the release of what I don't think was the entire competitive roadmap. It was a pretty big chunk of the competitive roadmap, but basically him hyping up the release of the same champs format that we've had for the last 2 years. I think that definitely was a hit for the scene, and they've like hinted at Masters events happening. I think after stage 4, if I read the settings and the terms of service and the rules all correctly, but it goes back to the communication aspect of it as well. And I think like the fact that we're almost 3 years into the game and there is no official means of communication for esports is kind of crazy. Like there's not a website we can go to, there's not a Twitter page, there's not an Instagram, there's not a Facebook, there's nothing. It's just Oh,
There's a
we
Twitter
found out
page.
that
COD, it's
COD
yours,
Mobile
right?
Esports.
Yeah, COD Mobile
Yeah.
Esports. Yeah.
Like,
well, you got to think it's also like, why would they do that if there is no link? Like the viewers are just not there. It's just not happening. And like ultimately it's their fault, but at the end of the day, like why would they change if they're still getting what they need? Because their ultimate goal is to profit. That's how any business is going to be. And like they're getting that. And like these competitive events, they have crazy numbers. Like the money that's being given out is crazy, but it doesn't really look good internally, but outside of the game, it looks amazing. Like from any outside perspective looking in, this is crazy. Like this is a mobile game, it looks great, but internally, it's just kind of an upset.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I think one of my biggest things from watching Stage 5 that really disappointed me, and B mentioned this in chat not long ago, was we pretty much watched like over the course of the Stage 5 weekend, we watched like 10 hours of ARP/explicit on screen. And as an org, I think that's really hard to kind of agree to put money towards a team this year. Because obviously, for example, NYSLM and Navi, they had teams competing in Stage 5, and I think it's really weird that those big organizations got such little screen time. I mean, I think we watched like maybe 20 minutes total of NYSLM on the
Well, you're
first
being
day.
generous right there, Dave.
Oh yeah, not even.
Well, I'm including like replays that like we didn't even see, where they're like, here's like one clip of something that happened. Like it was really weird to me that you can have these organizations that are like here ready to spend money in the scene and help you guys advertise, and then you gave them absolutely no screen time. Like that just is not good for sponsors. That's not good for the viewership of the competitive scene. And again, I think it's granted the Trovo Latam community is obviously quite large and quite vocal and very
Very
supportive. It's crazy to me that for the first day of Stage 5 they had like 1,700 viewers on YouTube, and Gilmania on Sunday for the finals of it's $200 for the Mystic Sunday Showdown.
Yeah.
He peaked at like 1,400 viewers. Like that's just the fact that he was 300 viewers shy or 400 viewers shy of what Stage 5 was at for day one is just, I mean, that's a lack of advertisement to me. Like there's just the views are there, but the fact that they just didn't pull it is just weird to me. Like again, Ferg had I think peaked at like 7,800 viewers when I checked. Like,
well, you also gotta like remember there's no competitive interest right now. Like I was saying, like being a ranked warrior, I got more viewers. There's no real
Exactly.
competitive interest. There's interest in the personalities right now, and
I
that's
think
it.
that's a lack
So
of
all the
integration,
viewership-
though.
No, that's
Yes,
not a
that
lack of
too, but
integration. That's well, yeah. Go ahead.
also it's the same thing. It's just like a lack of like want of competitive. No one really knows that they like if they like it or not, and they're not gonna experiment with it like until it's implemented through the game.
Exactly.
Well, and the thing is, like, because people don't ever get introduced into competitive, they think that what they see happening at the highest level of ranked is like the best players there are, which is why so much of the player base thinks that Ferg is the best player in the world because he hops into a legendary lobby and he drops a nuke. Nobody's dropping nukes in competitive. Like, these guys must be trash. Ferg should be the one out there playing. What are these scrubs doing?
In all fairness, Ferg is the best player.
That is true.
Ferg was also he was also sniper of the split for last Mobile Mayhem NA, if you remember.
He was and MVP of Stage 5.
Yeah. He played under the name Washi, but I mean,
Yeah.
And so, like, that's the thing. When you don't invest any money, like, number one, ranked is not competitive, so people aren't going to like look at the top of the leaderboards and say, oh, so this is what the best gameplay looks like, because what the top of ranked looks like is completely different from what the top of competitive looks like. They see competitive S&D, like, oh, these guys are just camping. Why would I watch people camp? Like, there's no skill involved in what they're doing because they don't ever get introduced to that level of competition. They don't have to watch anybody play it. They just don't comprehend the difference because, once again, there's no bridge there that's being created by a good rank system.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope we see league play again. This is a long-term wish for me, but you know, for someone who's casted and played in a bunch of different spaces, MOBAs. I had some time in a speedrun community. I have obviously played COD Mobile, like with the exception of the jetpack CODs. I just could not, man. I just could not. But looking at people can have their complaints all day about Vanguard and how bad Vanguard is, and I to a full extent do agree. Um, but I think there's certainly things that Vanguard has done right, specifically with the competitive scene. They're on a very unstable platform in Vanguard, but again, the way they have league play set up and their advertisement, you look at the CDL and if you're looking at competitive COD, the advertisement is everywhere. The influence is everywhere. They're putting that stuff out there. I don't know what COD Mobile can do better with maybe partnering with the likes of a YouTube on their algorithms or what it may be. I know Trovo is largely obviously a Tencent company, and they're looking to get a lot of their closely affiliated game titles moved over here in the future. We're obviously still very, very early on in the full release of Trovo, but that's maybe something they need to look into down the road. But again, I think CDL has even with a a blatantly bad platform. You look at Cold War and Vanguard, and I think they're certainly some of the worst CODs I've played for certain aspects, and I certainly think that they're some of the best CODs for other reasons, but there's just not a lot of consistency in them. But CDL continues to push forward, and that's just not the same emotion or effort level I think that we're getting out of COD Mobile right now.
And something kind of off topic, but on the same subject, is that it's kind of frustrating, but it's really like to each their own. But it's a trend to hate, and people always like with even albums, new games. It's like hyped, exciting, and then there's that one guy like looking to be a little edgy, and it's like, oh, all this weight, and then it's garbage. And people that genuinely enjoy this stuff are scared to speak out because they don't want to get hate back, even if they genuinely enjoy games. So, like even on a lot of new titles, especially COD and such like just competitively toxic community, uh, you're never gonna see people. You're not gonna have people like giving it a game because why speak out if you don't have to? But
Yeah.
with hating, you're always gonna get the feedback you look for.
All right. Anybody else have anything they really think we need to tie in, or are we thinking we hit everything as far as the important aspects? Obviously, this conversation could go on forever, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I got everything out there.
Yeah.
All right.
Day sucks.
All right. Well, if you guys haven't, make sure you go watch Bobby's latest video for sure. That
Banger.
Bobby's obviously if you're following me, you're certainly following Bobby. But that was a good video. I mean, granted, it did obviously jump into just I'm not even gonna just go watch the video because Bobby is someone who streams every single day, right? Space is someone who streams every single day, and the current state of ranked is just so terrible that you'll
Unplayable.
definitely see a large bit of emotion come through in Bobby's latest video. Certainly make sure you guys catch Space's streams. Space, you're starting to do more YouTube now too, right?
Yeah, trying.
All right. Well, make sure you hit up Space on YouTube and Bobby and Space both on Trovo. Follow Verdict on Trovo and YouTube as well. I know Verdict is trying to get some more YouTube content out there. I definitely want to get some more content like this, some more of the spicy stuff going, guys. I'm going to start doing some highlight reels and stuff. I gave up on trying to edit myself. It's too much. I have small brain. So so we're working on some stuff, but yeah, I really wish the best for COD Mobile. I think it's a really exciting scene that deserves the best and just hasn't fully got it. So I have big hopes for this year. They gave us a outline roadmap, and I just hope there's more to it, and I hope they handle things a little bit better than they did last year. I hope they learn from those mistakes and have a better time around this year. No more stage 3 mishaps. Yeah, I just want the best for COD
one
Mobile.
last
Game
thing.
Battles is running stage 3, so I wouldn't bank on that. But
Again, hopefully they learned. Hopefully they learned.
Yeah.
Hey, one
Seeding
last
is
thing,
important.
Make sure to check out Hawksnest stream tonight. We're doing IRL live streams again. It's one of the only chances you'll get to see everyone in person all at once. So
We are doing arm
fantastic.
wrestling
You got a
competitions?
link for
arm
that, or
wrestling, arm wrestling. Me versus Hitman.
is it
yeah,
just?
I'll invite Bolu.
Yeah. No, Bowler's not invited. No, not this time. But me and Hitman are gonna go arm wrestle right now.
Is that gonna be on Hawksnest YouTube?
Yep. On Trovo and YouTube.
All right, cool. You think you got Hitman beat?
Hitman said minus the arms, so
Just straight wrestling.
yeah.
He might have a weight advantage by like 200%, but best of luck to you.
I think it's fine. Weight classes don't matter, right?
Yeah.
All right, thanks for posting Bobby's new vid, Adrian. We're gonna go ahead and get a raid rolling, guys. Thank you all for coming by. Of course, thank you, Bobby and Space, for making time for tonight. And as always, Verdict, thank you for being here. Cute as always, giving me a nice, well, not giving me, but we got the nice new Verdict hat on.
Yeah.
And probably get some Warzone in tonight or something. But we'll get you guys a raid going. Thanks everybody for coming by, and we'll see you guys next time.